Leon now, and Leon is an artist who he works starting with music and radio and in a transdisciplinary manner. But his latest piece of work that he's producing and sharing some of with us at Deptford is called NAN KIDS, a phrase coined by Russell Brand to describe the children who end up being brought up by their grandparents for one reason or another. Leon himself was a NAN kid, and he's interviewed other NAN kids, both using a bursary. He was gifted a bursary and was able to go to America to interview NAN kids, and also NAN kids in London. So, Leon, do you want to tell us a little bit about why this is so important to you?
Well, I grew up as one. Ed, can you turn the volume down on your? Thanks. Yeah, so I mean, we grew up in a kind of care, but we quite often aren't kind of acknowledged in the same kind of way as people who are placed into homes or foster care or things like that. And it was a bit of a personal journey. My grandparents had died. It was actually 10 years ago I went to America. It was the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust that paid for that trip. And a lot of stuff happened after that. But yeah, so more recently I've been interviewing people like Alicia, who's going to be working with me on the project. And so what I've gathered here is going to be a combination of recorded interviews mixed with what I'm trying to create as sound word portraits. And then some of it I'll be trying out spoken word pieces, which is what I'm going to do today.
That sounds exciting. We can't wait to hear what you're going to do. Can I ask a little bit more though, because I think there are more NAN kids than people know. In fact, my neighbours in Hackney were grandparents who had to adopt their children. Sadly, for not the best of reasons. And you do describe that, and there's some themes of trauma in your work. So before we hear from you, can you just say a little bit more about that?
Of course. So when I got to go to America, I visited other families like mine, and I met people like a young woman whose parents had been murdered. She was 21, and every year in the papers, the local papers, the same story was coming up. So I also met lots of professionals who work with families like us and like ours. And there's 200,000 kinship care families. That's the kind of official care term for NAN kids and people who were brought up by their aunts and family friends and things. But a lady, Michelle Chappell, who was in the Bronx at the grandparent family apartments, said to me, there's never a good reason that, a grandmother has to bring up the child. And I actually met a lady who was in her 80s and bringing up her great grandkid who was 5. I mean, it was kind of mind-blowing, really. But I think, there is a lot of my work is based around trauma and about lived trauma. But at the same time, I'm really, there's still compassion, stories of humanity and compassion, and that's what I'm really trying to draw out. It's not, I'm not trying to be on a crusade or anything really. It's just about telling these stories, because quite often grandparents don't want to talk, don't want to let people know that they've had to bring up the grandkids, because quite often they're worried that they're going to get taken away by the authorities. For quite understandable reasons, really. So there's all kinds of things about care that means that we're quite often hidden away, and I think that has an impact on our mental health, and certainly a lot of the other NAN kids that I've talked to, we share kind of similar characteristics, I think. So that's what I found out 10 years ago, and I've been revisiting that more recently.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting form of unorthodox family structure that's not been very explored. So I'm really excited to hear more from you. Shall we hear your piece of reading poetry for us now?
Well, it's a combination. There's part of the recordings that I've been doing with my friend Alicia, and then I'll be doing the reading as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Over to you, Leon.
I didn't get it quite. I don't think it was hidden from me, but I don't think I actually knew, and I don't think anybody had formally told me until one day, maybe at the age of 5 or 6, my cousin, came into the living room. I can almost remember it quite clearly, and I was calling my grandmother mum, and he was like, "You know, she's not your mum." And it wasn't a complete shock to me that she wasn't, but nobody'd ever said it like that. After that, I think I went to her and said, you know, he said, "You're not my mum," and she sat me down. But I sort of had the feeling that she'd sat me down before, and that we'd looked through the pictures of my mum, and she was like, "This is your mum, these are your sisters," trying to explain something to me about how I came to be.
In the paddock on the king himself, the horse who could become the first £100,000 steeplechaser today, Red Rum. There he is, the horse who's run 74 times under national hunt rules and has never fallen, and today could become the first ever triple winner of the Grand National.
The starter preparing to mount his rostrum, in fact, going up now. And the white flag up there under starter's orders. Kilmore Boy being led up. And they've gone. Spitting image, just a little bit slow. Southern Quest.
Riding round on the front lawn on my bike. I might have been 4, I might have been 5. The catnip and hedges, there's 2 cars on the drive. The sounds of many bird songs, sweet summer sickly scent. Round and round in a circle on the front lawn in my bike. They're all inside, Mum and Dad, my sister Sandra, her husband Chuck, and their son Mark. The telly is on, Saturday afternoon, horse racing. They don't switch it off even though there's visitors. So many circles now I've done, working it out, the family tree. On the front lawn, on my bike. It's not that the penny drops, more that the jigsaw of what I've been told all now all fits. They had always told me that it was Sandra that had given birth to me, but Sandra had only been 14. So Mum was really my grandmother and Dad my grandfather. They'd had to take over. Mum's making tea. Sandra says behind her back it's always too weak and milky. All the time, Sandra picks faults with Mum.
And they touch down together. Red Rum and Let's Cargo. On the right of the picture, it's Let's Cargo, Tommy Carberry. On the left, it's Red Rum trying to make national history with Brian Fletcher, and he's the first under pressure, Red Rum, as they come to the final fence in the national. In third place is Spanish Steps, and over the last, they touch down together. Spanish Steps.
And there we go. Thank you very much.
Leon, thank you so much. That was really wonderful. And some huge issues there that I think art has the power to help us to explore such a wide range of issues. And these 4 artists collectives that I've described that you've heard from and met today are only the tip of the iceberg of what is on show at Deptford X. It's an amazing programme. And for those of you in Deptford now, if you get out there, it's already starting. So if you do go and walk around Deptford tonight, you'll be able to see an opening performance by the Peer Network at Studio 101 called Have You Eaten Yet? That starts at 7.